Okay, so the best way to include to drag and drop your imported file inside the composition is to drag and drop it like this, and what will happen, it will automatically align to the center. You can see now our arrow is in the center. So if you want your imported file inside this in the center of your composition, you can just drag and drop to this area. Okay, you might be seeing different tools here. So in order to toggle between modes, you can click this button. Okay, we are not going to use them for now, but in order to avoid confusion, I have told you. Okay, and okay, now let's modify our arrow. So I want to modify the scale. So the one way to do it is to just drag and drop these things, and if you want to decrease the scale uniformly, you can hold shift, and now you can see we can scale down easily. Okay, now if you go this to the layer side, so this is the layer side and this is the timeline. Okay, so click on this arrow, it will expand. Click on this arrow again, and now from here you can change the scale settings, you can change the position, you can change the rotation, and you can change the opacity. Okay, let's reset everything and decrease the scale like this. Okay, now you can see this chain button here. So this means this allows the constraint proportions. Okay, if I unclick this, you can see we can modify the scale of the separate sides, but if I check this, we can't do it. We have to modify them equally like this. Okay, so this is important. Okay, now let's click on this stopwatch. Okay, so what stopwatch does, it allows us to animate our layer. Okay, so if I'm going to click on the stopwatch of the scale, it will record all of the values on the timeline. So if I'm going to move it here to the 1 second, you can see I am at the 1 second, and if I increase the scale of it has created another keyframe. So a keyframe is a point which will store the settings, which will store the values, and then it will move from the first keyframe values of the keyframe to the values of the second keyframe gradually. And now you can see our arrow is animating. Okay, so we have animated the scale value. Now let's animate the position. Okay, so let's move the rotation like this and turn the auto key on for the position. Move it to outside of the screen like this, and then by holding shift, move to the keyframe. You can see it will automatically switch to that keyframe like this if you hold shift. Okay, so after moving to this keyframe, and you have to release the shift, and then you can move your arrow. Okay, now we have created a arrow animation. If you want to switch between keyframes, you can use these arrows. Okay, with this you can switch to the keyframes and you can modify these values as you want. Okay, let's set the scale to 0 for the initial keyframe. Okay, now let's add some rotation. Change it to like this. Okay, so we have created an arrow animation. It might be little bit overwhelming after seeing so many values. So the best way to edit each value one by one is to I have closed everything. Click on the layer, press P on your keyboard, it will show only position, and with the keyframes. Press S on your keyboard, it will show only scale. Press T on your keyboard, it will show the opacity. What if you want to show the position and scale at the same time? So press P on your keyboard to show the position, then hold Shift and then press S on your keyboard to see the scale at the same time, and then press R on your keyboard to see the rotation. Okay, make sure to hold Shift in order to see all of them at the same time. Okay, now there is best way to do this. There is a best way to see all of the parameters that have keyframes, which is by pressing U on your keyboard, and then you can see all of the keyframes. All of these properties are being appeared which has keyframes. So this is the fast way to do it, by pressing U on your keyboard.